every now and then we find ourselves in a situation that is perfect for photography. You know, we have perfect light and maybe a pretty model or nice sunset or whatever is your cup of tea. But then more often than not, those are not the circumstances. We feel that there's nothing to photograph and the weather or whatever, that is miserable, so we can't take any photos. And then it's of course always an option not to take any photographs. But to me, I'd like to try. And then one of the tricks that I use in those kind of less than perfect circumstances is that I try to be creative and use the tools to sort of circumvent those miserable conditions. To me, miserable conditions are sunlight and sunsets and just like crisp spring weather. That's the most difficult time for me to photograph right now. So I try to circumvent those circumstances by selecting tools, cameras, film, that would alter that reality, make it look different, make me also work harder, you know, so that I can somehow change the situation for my benefit. Now last Monday that was exactly the case. It was a nice spring day and I had 1 hour to waste downtown. I just had 1 hour break and I thought, like, I want to take some photographs, but the weather is exactly what I don't like. So how can I change that? So I took 8 sheets of 4x5 film. I chose to use Fomapan 100 and then I took my LaRouche pinhole camera. And I thought that maybe with these tools I can do something slightly different. And you know, went downtown and wanted to take some street photographs with my pinhole camera. Actually, before we go any further, there's something I need to explain to you. Now we are using a pinhole camera and it has a really small hole here through which all the light needs to go through. Like there's no lens, just a tiny hole. And it means that the F number, how much light goes through, is extremely large. Little light, big F number. In this camera it's about 150, 165, in that ballpark. Now that introduces 2 interesting characteristics to my photographs. First of all, everything is in focus. Now in focus, I mean pinhole camera pictures are always a little bit out of focus, but you know what I mean. Like everything really right next to the camera is as focused as something in the infinity. That gives me interesting compositional possibilities to put things far away and close, and this is one of the best cameras to create these three-dimensional views. Now the other thing with the large F number is that then the exposure times become increasingly long. Seconds, minutes, even hours. And then you start to take into account what is called a reciprocity error or reciprocity failure. Each and every film has different characteristics how they deal with low light situations and when there's a very little light. And now even in the middle of the day, from the film's point of view, there's very little light available because all the light needs to go through this tiny hole. And then it's no longer enough to measure the lightning and calculate the exposure times, but you need to know your film. And it starts to kick in, this reciprocity failure, you know, in around 1 second time. So if I measure with my light measurement tool that now I need to have an exposure time of half a second, then with Fomapan 100, half a second is enough. But then if I measure 1 second, then the reciprocity failure kicks in and I need to expose with 1 second measurement time 2 seconds. With 3 second measurement time, I need to already expose 14 seconds. And if I would measure the time needed to be 60 seconds with my Fomapan 100, I would need half an hour exposure time. And as I said, it depends on the film. You know, if I had chosen a color positive Fuji Provia, there's no reciprocity failure to mention here. Maybe a little bit, but not really anything. I don't need to compensate anything, but this one I did. So in my situation, on the street, in the bright sunlight, that made it extra difficult, because now some parts of the picture that are bright lit need so much less exposure time than the dark parts that it was a bit difficult to handle. By the way, for measuring my pinhole photography exposure times, I use an app called Pinhole Assist. It's an awesome app, and the benefit of that is that it not only measures the right exposure times for my pinhole camera, but it also understands the reciprocity failure of a certain film. So I can create camera film combinations, and it takes into account that non-linear failure that starts to occur with the long exposure time. So let me show you what happened on the street. So I set the Fomapan 100 to be the film and then the camera. And then if you look around here, first of all, if I point this to this corner, it gives me the exposure time of 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Then I go to the more light situation, 8 seconds to the opposite wall of the building. Then I turn around and look into the shadows, 15 seconds, 20, all the way up to 3 minutes. And these are easily in the same picture, 8 seconds and 3 minutes. So this was something I needed to manage. But hey, let's go on the street and see what kind of pictures I managed to take. And maybe nothing to write home about, but certainly I feel I managed to make even that photo session slightly interesting, even though the conditions were far from optimal. And I would typically say like that's not the day for photography, but I'm proud of myself. I pushed myself through. And also like this pinhole camera, I haven't used it lately that much, but it really pushes the compositions to a different level. And especially, as you probably noticed, no tripod. It's just, I love the perspective from putting it on the ground and then just using another 4x5 sheet film holder to sort of like as a stand. Hey, but then I also had my Lomomatic 110 on me in my pocket. This is such a small camera that you can put it into your pocket and almost forget about it. I reviewed this a few episodes ago and I did not really like it. But I decided to give it a try. And now as Lomography, the company decided to compensate my effort of reviewing it by sending me a free copy, free unit with my favorite color. And I took a few pictures also with this one. Now they look totally different and they are like this. So even with this camera, it's black and white for me. I'm a black and white guy. Hey, thanks for watching. Next time something else.